favorite gag? Airplane sequence in Fast 7. Dropping those cars out of the airplane was cool, but then parachuting them to the ground was so cool. Hi, I'm Andy Gill, and I am a second unit stunt coordinator. And my job is to take the script, break it down, and break out all the action pieces and make them something that we can actually physically shoot as much as practical on the set, still being safe, and with money guidelines and time guidelines. And that's what I do.
Punch it! Ain't nobody getting away from me today. Hey, come on! Shoot somebody! Oh, what are you doing, man? That's my bad.
I knew from day one when I became a teenager going into the working world that I absolutely did not want a 9-to-5 job sitting at a desk. That was in my mind from early on. I just said, I can't do that. And so I was thinking about going into football. I was thinking about these other things. And then my brother, Jack, he's 19 months older than me, but he moved out to California from Atlanta about 3 years before I did. And he just called me up one day and he said, get your butt out here and get to business. And I was doing nothing at home but, bartending and just enjoying my life. And so I sold everything, moved out to California, and he had just gotten on a show called Knight Rider.
A shadowy flight into the dangerous world of a man who does not exist.
And so about a year into it, he called me up one morning. He said, you're working tomorrow. And I went, what? He goes, yep, you're on a motorcycle and Kit is going to slide in front of you. You hit Kit and go over the hood and down a hill. And I went, all right, here we go. And so that was my first stunt. And then from that day, I knew that's what I wanted to do. This is for me. I come out here and get to crash things and jump things and race things. Yes, I'm in. It is hard to step up. I think what a lot of people need is a little help from coordinators. If a coordinator will bring a guy in as his sidekick, say, hey, like I did for Jack, go set that up for me. We're doing this jump, set the ramp up, I'll be over there. Come over there and you'll say, well, no, I needed it back 5 feet or this, that, and the other. And you learn from it. You learn from mistakes you made more than you learn from what you did right. And so you just keep doing that. And then hopefully down the line, you get a job coordinating. That's always the hard part. A lot of people get into the bigger shows and they're playing stunts on it, and they have all this money and all this stuff to play with as a stunt person. Then they want to coordinate in that world. Well, the problem is you don't have any background. So you kind of have to step back and go down into the lower end productions, less money, which they're looking at and you go, you've done those big films? Yes, you can coordinate this. Oh, it's going to be less money, but it's your starting point. You're kind of starting over a little bit. That's why I was lucky to start in TV and not in features right off the bat. Nepotism helps. I didn't struggle. Immediately just started working on Knight Rider. And on Knight Rider, I met a lot of other young stunt players my age. Tim Gilbert was one of them. And Tim's dad was doing Fall Guy.
I've been on fire with Sally Field, gone fast with a girl named Bo.
So I started doing Fall Guy, and then I started doing Riptide. And right off the bat, I was working like a normal stunt guy would. And I'd just gotten in the business. So I was very fortunate. Early on, Jack got into second unit director on Knight Rider. So he needed somebody to just cover for him. So I started covering for him, not as a coordinator, but I would just relay all the information. I would go scout things for him. I would go set things up for him, and then he would come in. And so I got that coordinating pretty quickly under my belt, learned a lot. And then my friend Spiro, who couldn't make it in the TV world or the feature world, had gone to what we thought was, if you couldn't make it in stunts, you went there, which was the straight to VHS videos. And they were like $1 million, and they went straight to VHS. And so he said, hey, I'm working on this thing, and they want me to be the stunt coordinator. I'm never stunt coordinator. Can you come help me? So, yeah, okay, I'll come help you, as long as I'm not working on Knight Rider or something else. Because I thought, this is low budget. There's no residuals. I go over there and we had a ball. It was just a week of work and we had a blast. We probably did 30 of them. And it's still to this day, I relate to it because we had no money. We did so many big gags with no money that I still use some of those ideas now in Fast.
Let's ride, let's ride, let's ride, let's ride.
Favorite gag? Airplane sequence in Fast 7. Dropping those cars out of the airplane was cool, but then parachuting them to the ground was so cool. We were at Pikes Peak, and we did it with 4 cars, but we had 2 overhead lines. They were, I think, a quarter mile long between 2 cranes, and they started about 140 feet off the ground on cables, and we just release them, and these 2 cars do a big slide for life down this cable with lines going up that looked like a chute. The chute was CG. But they come down and they turn the motors on at a certain point, and when they get to a point that we predetermined, the driver pulls a release and drops them off the cables to the ground, and they motor off. It was so cool. If I picked a Fast that I like the most, it's Fast 5. It's very grounded. It's all practical. It just makes sense, and it just moves. It just constantly moves. The safe, I had to drive one of the safes, so we had to rehearse how to sling that safe. We tried it with what's called Delron, which is a plastic stuff that slides really easy on different surfaces. So we put that on the bottom of the safe, which was 4,600 pounds, because we didn't think we were going to be able to move it. So we pulled it, and the problem was we couldn't stop it. Once that thing started going on Delron, you were done. It pulled it. It went by us so fast when we turned out and started jerking us backwards. So we took the Delron off, and we were going to put wheels on it. And then we all talked about it and said, let's just try, just see if we can even move it. And so we tried to move it, and we could get it going, but not good. And they picked it up, and we found out that it had all these steel pieces sticking out of the bottom, nuts and bolts and everything else. So we ended up putting a steel plate on the bottom of it, and then tried it again, and it was perfect. We could pull it, we could stop it, but you had to learn, if you wanted to turn right, what you had to do was the inside guy had to back off. So he had to get slack, but not run over his cable. The outside guy had to start initiating the turn. So as he initiates the turn, this guy's got to watch his cable, stay with you, but not run over it. And then as it starts slinging this way, it's going to take his rear end. This guy has to let off, and this guy has to take over and go. And you've made your turn. So it was a combination of 2 drivers trying to talk to each other without talking to each other. And we got to where we could sling it left, we could sling it right, and go down the road, keep it straight. And it was so much fun. We had 3 different safes. We had the tow safe, which was 4,600 pounds. We had a driving safe, which was a truck built inside the safe with a viewing port. And so we had bungee on it when it looked like it was behind us, but we had a driver and they'd actually drive it around. So we had more control of it. And then we had a semi with a steel nose on the front of it that looked like a safe. And that's what's hitting all those cars and just smashing them left and right. He just put his foot to the floor and went through them. And it was, he was having a ball. Got any more cars I can get?